place where quite a difference can be made in just a few weeks in presidential campaigns. With less than 2 months to go before the Iowa caucus, former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee is moving up in the polls. He's now running second behind former Massachusetts Governor Mitt Romney in the Iowa caucuses. Part of his appeal, a populist economic platform that backs a national sales tax to subsidize the poor, proposes more spending on preventive health care, and opposes unfettered free trade pacts. Bloomberg's Heidi Prisbilla joins us from Washington with more. Heidi, welcome back to the show. It's great to have you today. So you were on the road recently, or you sat down and had this chance to talk with Mike Huckabee. Start by giving us a little background on him and how it is that he comes to this. I mean, he sounds like a true compassionate conservative if you think of compassion towards workers and other people like that. What's his background?
All right, well, Kathleen, if you go back to his time as governor of Arkansas, you see a consistent line here of supporting some of these policies that are, if you will, a little bit out of the Republican economic mainstream, such as increasing the minimum wage, more spending on health care, increasing taxes, which, you know, he's drawn some scorn from some of the leading economic conservative groups for, but cigarette taxes, gasoline taxes, alcohol taxes, you know, policies like that, which now you also see going into the campaign, translating into some of his rhetoric in the campaign for his policies as president. At the same time, he's anti-gay marriage, anti-abortion, and he's got a very strong, solid social conservative foundation.
So in terms of who he is, you could say to yourself, well, gee, I wonder if this is just a way to get attention, to stand out from this Republican pack. Is this genuine? Is this something, again, is this sort of like a campaign ploy, or is this really who Mike Huckabee is? And if so, why?
Well, my impression is that it's genuine and that it's very strongly rooted in his evangelical background. You know, he's a former Baptist minister, and you hear him talk a lot about these things on the stump, and there's a lot of interweaving with, you know, his strong kind of moral and religious grounding. You know, and I was out talking with him, Kathleen, for example, on the issue of trade, another issue where he's a little bit out of the Republican economic mainstream. He said, you know, is it really morally responsible for me to enjoy a fair price when I know that a 9-year-old has worked a 20-hour day yesterday to give that to me? And so you see a bit of that fusion between the moral orientation and the economic views that he holds.
Is there any constituency within the Republican Party, even within more conservative Republicans who maybe would support him on these social issues, to support this kind of platform? The Club for Growth has derided him as a tax hiker. Cato, a noted libertarian group, gives him an F on taxes and spending. You just kind of wonder, it's got him up, I guess, in the Iowa caucuses in those polls, but longer term, is this just like a recipe for disaster for him?
Well, certainly it's gotten him somewhere because, like you said, he's second in the Iowa polls, but long term it could be much more of a problem because I'll tell you from my talks with some of these individuals, such as Mr. Toomey at the Club for Growth, they don't just lightly dislike some of these policies and some of the things that Mr. Huckabee has said. For example, when he was in here talking with us a couple of months ago, he referred to the Club for Growth as the Club for Greed. So it is a little bit personal there. But at the same time, I think that you really do have a constituency in the Republican Party that is the same constituency that speaks to and identifies with folks like Mr. Pat Buchanan, who talks about protecting U.S. jobs and fair trade and penalizing countries like China that don't play fair.
Heidi, in your story, you raised the possibility of a vice presidential candidacy for Mike Huckabee. What are the odds on that? You watched this race very closely. You talked to a lot of people in the Republican Party. Is he just too far to the right on the social issues and too far to the left on some of these economic issues for sort of the mainstream of the Republican Party?
Well, Kathleen, it's interesting that you should ask that. I was just out at lunch with a very influential Republican lobbyist who is close with the Giuliani campaign. Now, as it's starting to look like Rudy Giuliani has a strong lead in the national polls, folks are talking about potential VP candidates. Well, think about Rudy Giuliani. He's more of a socially liberal Northeasterner. And who is Mike Huckabee? Socially conservative Southerner. Wouldn't that be a nice match? And this lobbyist said to me that, yes, Mike Huckabee would be on the short list.
Wow. And well, we'll see how it goes. You're weeks away, but this is obviously such a big story already. Heidi Priscilla, thanks so much for joining.